No one can truly know everything where they've got cows. No one can truly know everything.
That's not for you, that's for you to say, hey, I know this. If you'd like me to find it. Is that what?
All rise.
Thank you very much. It's a bit dusty, the chair. Welcome, everybody. This is our regular meeting of Oak Bay Council for September the 18th, 2017. And as we begin all of our meetings by acknowledging the land on which we're meeting, is the traditional territory of the Coast and Straits Salish peoples. Specifically, we recognize the Lekwungen speaking peoples, known today as Songhees and Esquimalt, and that their historic connections to these lands continue to this day. Also advise people who are here we are being recorded, and the live streaming is going on now, and they will be the recordings will be archived, not the videotape. We don't do that so much anymore. So thank you very much. I have a number of remarks before we get into the public participation. They're short because last time they were long. And the first is to thank and recognize the efforts of Oak Bay Rotary, or I think more formally known as the Rotary of Oak Bay. Today I assisted with the president of Rotary of Oak Bay with cutting the ribbon at these wonderful new entry stairs into our pool at the rec center. It allows people who are have disabilities or different abilities, I think is the appropriate way to say, to get easily in and out of the pool, and that was made possible by Oak Bay Rotary, and we're grateful to their efforts. And as I said today, they're there when you need them. They were, so we all know, any of us who've had kids, that they contribute annually to the upkeep and certainly to the start of the water park at Carnarvon. They were there when we needed support at the Windsor Pavilion. So our appreciation goes out to them. And just after we cut the ribbon, what appeared to be kind of a setup, but it wasn't. There was a woman who had one of those walkers because she'd had injured knee, and she looked at us and, "What are you doing?" And we explained it to her. "What?" And she right away used it. She said, "Oh, this is great. I'm able to go down in the water now," which she couldn't before. And great enthusiasm. She was very appreciative, and I think that appreciation reflects so well on the Oak Bay, the Rotary of Oak Bay, who are great contributors. So thank you very much. I know Councillor Croft is a member of Rotary of Oak Bay, and I asked him to take our thanks back to them in a formal way. The next regular meeting of Council is October 10th, 7 p.m. And as a result of having the gap, because we're at UBCM where we will be meeting with ministers, although we did hear some news about that today, we weren't able to get a meeting with the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. We're still waiting word on others, but because we have so much of a gap, tonight will be a four-part meeting. So we're going to start, as we're doing now in Council. We'll go into in-camera session, we'll come back to Committee of the Whole, and then we'll go back to Council. And that's to make sure that, quote, we keep our processes moving, unquote, And that's a phrase that was suggested to me by the Deputy Director of Corporate Services, and I appreciate that. We are about to open tomorrow morning the TELUS Future Home. You may have seen it on Hampshire, just at the corner of Oak Bay Avenue. They're set up, and they were working on it when I went past there this morning. It'll be open to the public. It'll be an official opening tomorrow, the September 19th at 11 a.m., and it'll be open till 7 p.m. And during the time when it is open, the block of Hampshire will be closed and traffic routed through Theatre Lane. So, a bit of good news for our efforts at climate change. We have once again been recognized and approved to continue to be known as a carbon neutral climate leader by the BC Climate Action Community. So that's for 2016. We'll be able to continue to use that logo, and we have had a nice letter which starts Mayor to Mayor and Council. On behalf of the Joint Provincial Union of British Columbia Municipalities Green Communities Committee, we'd like to extend our congratulations for successfully achieving your goal of corporate carbon neutrality for the 2016 reporting year. So we can proudly display the logo and put that on our letterhead. So we're grateful to staff for that, because the real work in becoming neutral is at the staff level. And so, for instance, we continue to recognize the efforts of Mr. Olson, who just did wonders over in the rec center in reducing our fuel needs and our energy needs. It's just astounding. And you have the Olson, there's probably a Mr. Olson in each and every one of our departments, where people and our staff bring forward suggestions on how to reduce energy. So we're grateful for our staff for making sure that we again reach carbon neutrality in 2016. So thank you. The last item has to do with the United Church, and it'll lead us into the public participation period. You may remember last week there was a number of speakers here, particularly one, former Mayor Diana Butler, talked about public participation in the process with the church in advance of it coming here, and I can make it very clear that that there has been no application received by either council or the staff. There was some confusion amongst people that they might have mistakenly thought when I said we haven't received any, council hasn't received any. That goes to corporately, we haven't received any. But Ms. Butler also suggested things like design charrettes and community meetings. So I, at that point last week, undertook to meet with the United Church Committee, and I was grateful they were able to see me by Friday. So we had a very good meeting with the community, not the whole community, but the chair who's here tonight, along with Reverend Slater and a number of other members of the committee that are leading the development issue there. And after our discussion, I said I would report back. It was a very worthwhile meeting. I learned a lot in terms of what the church intends in terms of public engagement, and how they're going to move forward, particularly on something like a design charrette. And so we're going to hear tonight from Reverend Slater, who's going to give us a bit of an overview of what the process is going to look like. She also told me about an advisory committee of residents, which is in the process of being set up. So we'll hear a little bit about that. And that'll be under the public participation period. So those are my remarks. One other joyful piece of news, and that is we welcome back Councillor Nave. Thank you very much. Your seat was a little dusty, but we kept it warm, and we welcome you back, and we're glad you're back. And you know, as you know, the fall agenda is going to be a heavy one, so it's great to have you to bear the load with the other 6 of us. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I just want to thank my council colleague for picking up any slack that I may have left in my absence, and I'm pleased that I have regained my energy and found my health, so thank you all for the welcome back.
Thank you very much. Public participation period. I don't know if there's going to be more than one person, but so it is 3 minutes. It reminds you of when you come forward, just to state your name and write it out in the municipality that you're from. And you are being recorded, as I mentioned before, so be aware of that. So, Reverend Slater, I understand you're going to be the lead for the United Church and introduce the chair formally of the church committee. Sure. And when I say a warm, hearty welcome, then I'll start the 3 minutes. But given that it doesn't look like there's anybody else, the council may be ready if they have questions for you to ask and go a little beyond 3 minutes, but we'll wait and see. A hearty, warm welcome to you, Reverend Slater.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I'm Reverend Michelle Slater. I'm the lead minister at Oak Bay United Church, just up the road, and I personally live in Saanich municipality. Mayor Nils asked me not to open with prayer, so I'll skip that.
No, it was closing with a prayer.
Oh, it was closing. So I could open. Thanks very much for this opportunity to provide you with an update from the congregation. We last came to council in July to share with you our hope to embark on a process to redevelop our property. And so there isn't a lot of time in 3 minutes, so I'm back again to give you a little more background and let you know where we're at this point. Oak Bay United, I hope you know, has been serving your community for more than 100 years and providing programs, ministries, and services that meet the needs of a wide variety of people. And we really are committed to doing that for another 100 years to come. Programs that we offer at little or no cost include baby and toddler play groups, all ages yoga, 12-step groups, seniors programs in conjunction with Silver Threads, the monthly Bring It On Cabaret. We offer programs for youth, including a twice-monthly meeting, a summer day camp for children. As you know, we partner with Threshold Youth Housing Society to provide stability and support to youth and young adults so they can finish their studies and work towards independence. And our thrift shop ministry keeps items out of the landfill, provides low-cost furniture, housewares, and clothing to people who need them, send things at no cost to people in crisis here and around the world. And more importantly, it provides community support and care to a large population of seniors, elderly, and the disabled every week, for whom this actually is their village, their community of support. We know, we trust and believe that the congregation is an asset and a resource to the community of Oak Bay, and we need the capacity to continue. So to do that, we actually need to ensure our sustainability by using our property to generate enough income to take care of our aging buildings and continue to make the investments in our community that we do, as well as new investments. And when we looked at the options that were consistent not only with our values, but the needs of the community, affordable housing became our focus. With rising rents and a minuscule vacancy rate, as you know, it is very difficult for young adults, students, working people, and seniors who are ready to downsize to find anywhere to live. There is a dearth of affordable housing options for a variety of populations. So our vision is to use our church property to create affordable rental housing that will complement the community that is already here. So this would be housing for people who already live here and work here and study here. I want to confirm that this is not subsidized housing and it is not supportive housing for people who are in vulnerable populations. These are for people who already live, work, and play in the Oak Bay community.
I'm just going to pause you there.
Am I at 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
With the consent of council that we allow the Reverend to finish her statement? I did interrupt a little bit, but I don't think that took too much time. Yes, there appears to be consent. Go ahead, Reverend Slater. Thank you.
Thank you. There is no commercial component to our plans. We hope to create a community meeting space that would be available, but we certainly don't anticipate running any businesses. We plan to move the thrift shop to an off-site location, as we know it is not sustainable where it is. So to this point, our progress is we formed an advisory panel, including a developer with experience in government-funded programs, a residential property investor with experience in real estate with the government, a lawyer with extended experience with housing and local government law, and a former mayor of Oak Bay Council. We have applied to BC Housing for a loan to begin the community consultation phase. We have approached Ron Winjack of CEI Architecture to be the architect, and he has agreed, which we're delighted with. And Ron and CEI, as you may know, worked on the recent Oak Bay High initiative. And with Ron, we're beginning to plan a process of community dialogue and conversation, including open houses and workshops, along the same lines as he led for the development of Oak Bay High. We have been knocking on doors to begin conversations with our neighbors. We created a monthly newsletter to be sent to neighbors and anyone who wants to sign up to receive it on our website. And we hosted a gathering of immediate neighbors of over 60 people, shared this and other background, answered a lot of questions, and took note of a lot of concerns, which we were really pleased to do. Our whole purpose is to love our neighbors as God loves us. We are grateful that our neighbors are so intentional about being in conversation with us, and we look forward to being in much more dialogue and collaboration for this project. We exist to love our neighbors and to serve the community, and that's our deepest and highest value. So,
thank you very much, Reverend Slater. Just a note about I heard about Rod Winjack, who's now been retained. He led the public participation at the high school, including design charrettes, and I think that was a model of public engagement. So I think that's very good news that he's agreed to come on board. So let's just, if there are any questions that people have for Reverend Slater? I don't see any. Okay, go ahead, please.
What are the timelines? I may have missed that. What are you aiming for?
Well, we're at the very beginning of the process, so we don't have, a year maybe to come back to you with a rezoning request. But we're at the very beginning. We have nothing. We don't have plans. We don't have anything on paper. We don't have studies. I think there's a bit of a misconception that we've been working away secretly behind doors, and we really haven't. We really want to be in conversation with the neighbor. We are a neighbor, and many of the members of the congregation live in the neighborhood and the community, and lots of us would like to, if we could find places to live. We would love to live in the Oak Bay community. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Councillor Zelko.
Thank you very much, Chair, and welcome. I'm so very, very glad you're here to share this information.
Thank you.
Is there any kind of a website or any sort of information that might be publicly available in a more convenient fashion yet, please?
Yes, on our website, oakbayunitedchurch.ca, all one word. The last section on the above menu is called Project. Click on there. There's a one-pager that's already up. At the bottom of that page, you can sign up to receive the newsletter. We're hoping it will come up. It will come out monthly, even if there's nothing else to say other than we're in stasis. You're always welcome to contact the chairperson of our property development committee at the church, whose name is Cheryl Thomas.
Okay.
And I don't have her contact information, but just call the church office.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Reverend Slater. And as I indicated to you, we're certainly prepared to create any support or create any situation where it's easier for you and the community to get together. So we're there to support that process and urge you to go forward with it, because we certainly want to see that community conversation occur. So thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks for giving me more time. You can never ask a preacher to come and stick to 3 minutes. So. God bless you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what I'd mentioned to Reverend Slater is, at this point, I had said maybe, I don't know how appropriate it is to mix church and state with the shall we pray. So thank you very much for refraining. All right. So We next have, the next item is item number 3, which is to receive correspondence that relates to item
Move receipt.
6, please. Moved.
Second.
Seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much. New business verbal reports. Report on the CRD. We did have a meeting recently, and you probably noticed in the two of the big issues that came up, one was a kind of a non-issue at the end of the day. There is no Europe trip planned by CRD to view integrated resource management in either Europe or North America. So that, in fact, did not even come to the board. It had been sidetracked at the environmental committee level. Instead, we'll be gathering information that's easily at hand and available. The other piece of business that we did, there was quite a bit of debate on, was the issue of whether or not the CRD should move ahead on a transportation authority. That's been before the CRD before. There was resistance by a number of Western-based municipalities. This time around, there was a fairly good consensus, but still some resistance from Western communities about whether or not we should move ahead. The initial motion called for us to move ahead and to have a counter petition for that purpose. The part about a counter petition was dropped, and staff will be bringing forward a report on how to move ahead. And there'll be some options, and at that point, CRD will have to choose which option it wants to go down, whether or not it's a referendum, or it's by consent of all 13, or by counter petition. That'll be decided down the road. So the motion passed fairly handily that we should move forward on a transportation authority. So I think that's good news on that front, because I think it's clear, and one of the points I made, that a good transportation network is necessary for economic well-being, for even for that matter, for social well-being, where people can get back and forward with using public transportation or other modes of transportation. And then, of course, from a climate change point of view, if we can reduce a single car occupancy and encourage other forms of transportation, that's good for our climate change initiative. So that's where it stands. I don't know when it'll come back, probably within about 4 or 5 months. I think staff have already done a lot of work on it and prior, so it shouldn't be that much. I know that I think the Minister of Transport is looking at this and very carefully, wants to see some kind of coordinated effort in the area of transportation. That's what my understanding. Okay, so that's where we're at there. No other decision was made. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Is it going to include active modes, or have they determined that?
No, that's down the road in terms of setting out the parameters of what Transportation Authority would look after.
Okay.
I mean, that's to come down the road, and also in terms of how much it should be funded, how it should be funded. Yeah. Okay. But more news to come on that. Any other reports, verbal reports, new business? Yes, Councillor Murdoch, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just three quick notes. GVPL, Great Victoria Public Library, just a couple things. With the new library operating agreement, we're committed to having a final budget by, I think, November of each year, so that it goes into all of the municipal budgetary cycle earlier to allow us, all of the municipalities, to get their budgets done earlier. So there's been a lot of work done with the Finance Committee over the summer, so we expect to have, there's a sort of a draft version of that for consideration coming up next week, or tomorrow, sorry. And so we'll probably have that in our hands to have a look at sooner than later. So it's a change of process that it's hard to do this early, I have to say, but it's a good process. And also just a heads up that the James Bay branch is expected to open in the early part of 2018. So that's still on schedule, and all the fit-out meetings and stuff are happening, so that's pretty exciting.
And remind us where that's physically going to be
it's
located?
it's in the new block that's being built out right behind the legislature buildings.
Oh, that's no, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So it's going to be kind of an
location.
anchor tenant of that whole development. The Greater Victoria Labour Relations Association, which I don't usually talk about, Just is, we did have one piece of public news, which is that the Royal Macpherson Theatre Society and IATSE concluded negotiations and have both ratified the agreement between them, which is good. We're in the middle of a large number of negotiations. Just Councillor Croft and myself are both going to be attending the Macpherson Playhouse first inaugural meeting with the City of Victoria. In fact, I believe there are 12 of the 13 regional municipalities, not Salt Spring, not Souk, I believe, are the two that sort of aren't coming to that meeting. So we'll all have a very fulsome discussion about the future of Macpherson and the Royal, and probably some other broader arts considerations as well. So definitely looking forward to that also happening tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Croft, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to report that the Manager's Task Force on Community Engagement had a very long meeting on Friday, and that we've committed to be presenting to the Committee of the Whole on October 18th, our next report. And we do apologize for the length of time that it's taken to get here, but the first report was turned back and we had to reset our program. So I wanted to let you know that. I wanted to thank Director Horan for his GIS mapping and the Oak Bay high bike lanes that were announced today and that are available information. That information is going out as you requested. So thank you for that. And I was at the United Way launch today, as were Hazel and Councillor Braithwaite and Councillor Murdoch, and I was quite excited to hear about the BC 211. I was one of the original helpers on the helpline when it started here in Victoria way back in 1972 as a person on the end of the line taking the phone calls, and to see that this has come this far and that United Way is now supporting the BC 211 on all of Vancouver Island was really great news today for me. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? All right. Councillor Kirby, please.
I just had a quick announcement that the Oak Bay Recreation has brought in a special screening of Screenagers, Growing Up in the Digital Age, which is an amazing movie that I saw in the spring, and our wonderful staff at Oak Bay Rec have organized a screening of the movie. You can't see it any other way, so it's the only way to see this movie, and it's excellent. It's a documentary style movie about a mom who has two teenage kids, a boy and a girl, different ages, and the boy's just entering university, and the daughter's 12 and wanting her first phone. And it's just an incredibly poignant, timely movie that I found very helpful, given the discussions that are ongoing daily in our household about screens and digital device usage. So it's October 5th, Thursday, October 5th, in the Dave Dunnett Theatre, Community Theatre at Oak Bay High, and doors open at 6:30. It's an hour and a half, the whole thing, and it's only $5 per person, and it's just an excellent movie. So if you know anybody that's got kids and is struggling with that issue, or not yet, it's good to be prepared. And I'm hoping that there'll be a brief discussion with parents so that you can share ideas on how to manage devices and issues around digital usage.
So October 5th at 7?
Thursday, October 5th at 7 p.m. at the Dave Dunnett Theatre.
Okay, thank you.
You can get tickets online through our website, through our awesome new Oak Bay Rec registration, or just call the rec center in the old 595 swim.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? Councillor Selko, or did you want to, on that one, to just hang on?
Sorry, Mayor. I needed to do an addition to my report on BC 211, and that is...
Okay, so we'll finish that report,
yeah,
and we'll just go back.
If you could go back, I
finish yours. Okay.
Is that Councillor Braithwaite asked me to let you know that there's a presentation of the BC 211 at the UBCM next Wednesday morning at 7:30 a.m. So, if you're interested.
Thank you very much. Now, Councillor Zelko.
Thank you so much, Chair. I wanted to have the opportunity to say thank you in public to the CRD, and in particular the Bowker Creek Initiative, for the work that they did, and they are still in process of doing, in terms of buffing up that wonderful stretch of Bowker Creek directly behind Oak Bay High School. They're basically organizing primarily Oak Bay volunteers to weed it and get it ready for handover, official handover to the school board, for the school board to maintain the lands. I understand the creek bed is still maintained by Oak Bay itself, District of Oak Bay, but that wonderful amphitheater and the gardens around it will be handed over to the school board shortly. So there'll be one more session for the weeders and the volunteers in the community, I believe on Friday the 29th, while we're at TBCM. And everyone's welcome to come from 9 to 12. Also shout out to the community associations, in particular Community Association of Oak Bay, for their shoreline cleanup that they did. I believe was it on Saturday? I know a few people had a chance to attend. I didn't have a chance to attend that, but wanted to acknowledge that and the other community associations that are expressing such wonderful care and consideration for our wonderful community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, no one else? I get one more that I was reminded of. Others were talking, and that is this Saturday. There's a Panorama 2 at Dave Dunnett Theatre to raise money for the grand piano to go into the high school. So this is another extravaganza. I think there's 7 wonderful pianists that will be entertaining. So hopefully you can come out for that. Tickets are available in the rec center for that. So thank you. Let's move on to resolutions, please. The first one is one that we have received. We all received a letter from the Member of Parliament, Sheila Malcolmson, from Nanaimo Ladysmith, who has asked us to endorse a Parliament bill, or a bill that's before Parliament, an act to amend the Shipping Act to provide for a national strategy for abandoned vessels. You may recall Ms. Malcolmson, in her role as essentially local government elected person for many years, advocated programs to deal with derelict and abandoned boats. And now that she's carrying that fight forward on our behalf. So she has asked that we give support for that. So I circulated her letter and may...
Second.
Moved and seconded, okay. Discussion. Seeing none? Oh, go ahead.
I just want to thank you for bringing this forward, because it's an excellent idea what she's proposing. I think it's a lot better than what we have, and I'm disappointed that they didn't include the recommendations in the initial bill that they brought forward. It's disappointing, but we can do what we can do.
Yeah, and certainly I've always appreciated working with her when she was a local government elected person at UBCM. I think we must have probably met ministers at least 4 years running on this very issue, and she was very tenacious, informed, and I think it was at last AVICC she gave a presentation on this when we met in Nanaimo. So we thank her for her grit and determination, and certainly wish her the best. Councillor Zelka, did you have a point?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I'll be speaking in favor of the motion. I wanted to also express my appreciation for the many volunteers in this district and also in the district of Saanich for the care and consideration and moving forward with these sorts of initiatives, whether there is federal acts or not. So I appreciate the fact that this is going to be dealt with come hell or high water. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And call the question. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much. And there'll be a letter, I take it, that I'll sign on behalf of council. Thank you very much, staff. The next resolution, and before we break into in-camera meeting, is one that was proposed last week by Councillor Braithwaite. I think she's just as we speak, and she circulated earlier this afternoon a revised version of that, which in essence, well, perhaps you can just read that out, Councillor Braithwaite, the resolved part.
Sure. I just changed the resolved part just slightly, just to encompass some thoughts that had been being discussed this week. And it says, therefore be it resolved that staff be directed to arrange a date and venue in November to hold a town hall meeting, and that the Community Engagement Task Force be invited to bring for consideration at the next Committee of the Whole any recommendations they feel may improve that meeting's effectiveness.
Okay.
I would be honored to second this.
Thank you very much. Now, just before I call on you, would it help if we heard from Councillor Croft, who at the public engagement meeting, and give their thoughts to, and I know Councillor Zelka was there, and I think there was an agreement on the committee as to what kind of meeting format, and I think that's why they offered to to give input in the meeting format, time, place, that kind of thing. Would that meets with everyone's approval? Yep, everyone's okay with that. Thank you very much. Councillor Croft.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Yeah, at our meeting, we did have included in our working papers for our report the idea of a town hall meeting. And amongst the three of us, Jan Mears and Councillor Zelkin and myself, we felt that a town hall meeting format in the traditional format in a municipality like ours doesn't really provide what I think we're looking for in input from our public. The problem is that the mayor represents the council, and in the two town hall meetings that I've been to in this municipality, the councillor sat at the front, the mayor answered questions, and people went away, and they didn't feel that they had been adequately served in the end by the town hall meeting. They weren't certain that they'd been heard because there was no feedback method for that kind of a meeting. And what we thought we would suggest, and we would like to move forward with, if council is in agreement, is that we would use a method that is more organic, where people are sitting at tables rather than at a great hall meeting, that the meeting would move like the sewer separation project throughout the community. So there might be one in the north, one in the central, and one in the south. But we need time to develop that and move forward with more of a community engagement model than a town hall model. I did a lot of research over the weekend looking at the history of town hall meetings in municipalities, and I couldn't find any models that worked. There was no good literature on how to set one up. There's lots of good ideas about how to set them up in corporations, and one of the things is they say keep your crowd small. Make sure that you've got an agenda. Make sure that you're engaging them at their level, not at the objectives of the organization. So I just really reluctant to go into a town hall meeting without a really good plan to begin with.
Okay, so let me ask, keeping that in mind, let me ask Councillor Braithwaite. Do you see enough flexibility in this motion to allow the committee to come back with what, if any, format they would propose, even though, I mean, calling something a town hall just means you're going to meet at a town that has a hall. But I don't think there's any defined format for that. Do you see there's enough flexibility in that?
I think there's enough flexibility, but I would have to really stand by the fact that I would want to see one in November, because I think that this committee has been together for quite a long period of time and hasn't come up with a solution. We've been trying to work towards having town hall meetings for a long period of time, and I think it's apparent by two members of council having, in essence, their own town hall meetings in the past week and a half, that that's something that our committee is perhaps now ready for. We've had other members of council who attended those town hall meetings, so it looks to me that it's something that we're prepared to do now. So as long as we have a date and a venue for something in November, then I think that this motion does say that the task force can bring back for consideration how that meeting, what that meeting should look like. But I would have to insist that we do have something in November where we could have basically a question and answer period for our members of our community to come forward and be heard.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, any other speakers? Councillor Ney, please.
I thank you, Councillor Braithwaite, for bringing this forward, and I don't disagree that it's time that we engage our community in some way or another. The word town hall, I agree with Councillor Croft, is troublesome for me, and it's just, especially it's capitalized, so it gives it a sense of a kind of meaning, and I would suggest to keep, in line with what the spirit of this motion is all about, to replace the word town hall with public forum. So it's to hold a public forum meeting so that nobody's distracted with trying to uphold the principles technically of what a town hall is, because I agree with Councillor Croft, and others know this, that those meetings typically are positional, argumentative, and one way, as opposed to other public forum technologies that can be much more dynamic, dialogic, and interactive. So that would be my suggestion. I don't know if you're open to that, Councillor Braithwaite.
Through you, Chair, does staff have any indication as the difference between terminology between a town hall meeting and a public forum? I'm kind of putting you on the spot, sorry.
Ms. Koenig.
I think that there are examples, and probably the ones that people are most familiar with are what's happening in Victoria. Victoria does quite a few of these kind of public forums. Town halls are typically, as I think Councillor Croft had indicated, more of a opportunity for people to come and express their views. It wasn't necessarily something that there's a dialogue back and forth. Beyond that, I haven't done any study. This is a motion that's in front of council, and I'll wait to hear what council would like staff to do.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask, well, maybe have a little more discussion, but what I wanted to see, is that a motion to amend, to change the word in paragraph 1, town hall, to, what was the wording, public forum or community meeting? Public forum,
Could we have discussion first, perhaps, around that?
Yeah, so I just wanted to see, I don't know if it was just a point of discussion or you were planning to have a motion.
Yeah, well, it was a suggestion, but it's up for discussion, really, is what I was.
Okay, so there's no motion on the floor yet. Councillor Zelka and then Councillor Kirby.
Chair, I want to thank you very much for providing some opportunity for discussion before we jump into a motion. So thank you very much for
We do have a motion on the floor now.
What I'm referring to
Yep.
in terms of changing
Oh, I see.
the motion
Okay.
on the floor, so that the thoughts that I have, I can actually then bring them forward. So thank you very much for not shifting the ground before I have a chance to speak. Thank you. So with respect to the motion that's currently on the floor, I very much appreciate Councillor Braithwaite's suggestion and the addition to allow the task force, community engagement task force, with the experts that we have at hand. You know, not only Jan Mears, but we know we have a few people standing behind us who also have expertise in community organization development consulting, such as the expertise of my wife. And I haven't a clue what she does, but she's an organization development consultant specializing in these sorts of things, so I get to hear about how you design a good meeting space and have good agenda, and you have markers that work, and you have people that feel welcome, and there's all these things that are so important that to some of us sort of in the midst of a meeting we don't quite get it. But on the other hand, the whole point is to make everyone feel welcome and give everyone a chance to be listened to and to be heard, and ideally with a two-way model. So I appreciate the opportunity to allow the task force to pass comment and bring that back here to committee of the whole for final judgment by council. And to tell you the truth, I don't know the difference between town hall or public forum. I just want to have a meeting in November. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kirby, please.
I'm not objecting to having more opportunities for community engagement. I think we have the open mic, the public participation period at the beginning of each meeting, council meeting, because we wanted more opportunities for community engagement and more opportunities for people to voice their concerns, worries, or appreciation. Either way, feedback is it coming through this new council tool we have with the public participation period. So that's a one-way tool, though, and I think we've all experienced what it's like to sit here and listen to somebody very concerned about a particular issue for 3 minutes, and then that's that. And we may have an acknowledgement from the mayor, but it's frustrating for the rest of us not to be able to answer questions or have a dialogue. So while I think it's and I also want to just acknowledge the fact that the staff have basically spent most of our term, and the previous term, doing a ton of public engagement on just about every issue that we have dealt with. So I was concerned that the public was just a little bit fatigued with public engagement processes. And given that we did the OCP, we've done several other things, bylaw changes, and the upland sewage separation project. We're about to enter another engagement process for the bike lanes that were announced today. I'm concerned that there will be more fatigue again, and I don't want to follow that same model of the public participation period where we are left unable to respond. So I prefer a model that allows dialogue. So if that were to come as a suggestion, I think that's where I'd prefer to go. But I'm happy to see where council wants to go with this.
Okay, Councillor Murdoch, please.
Thank you, Chair. I got to say, I'm not a big fan of town hall meetings because the issue is often that it's not that we don't understand that there are ideas and things out there. The hard part we have is to prioritize them and to fit them into the budget and find staff time to do them and so forth. So they tend to be frustrating because people have things that they feel very strongly about but may or may not be able to achieve within the thing. I would rather not go down this path because I agree with Councillor Kirby. We have a bit of the risk of fatigue. We have so much consultation on projects that we actually need public input on that just opening up a door to general discussion is problematic because we can often just acknowledge, nod sympathetically and say yes, but we don't have budget right now, so it may go into the priorities. So generally speaking, I wouldn't support this idea because I think it's just providing false hope for people that that somehow they're going to influence things when it's not. We don't know these things, but it's just we have some restrictions of what we can actually do. Plus, I will say, there's pros and cons to this. We are a small town, and every single one of us are so accessible by email and phone and to meet in person, and not a single person at this table would ever say no to anybody who wants to meet and talk about something. So it's not like we're hard to reach or get a hold of or anything else. So. But I do recognize, and I share it with Councillor Braithwaite, that we seem to be going down the path of having these things anyway, which is, I think, the worst possible outcome when we're not getting sort of all the same information at the same time. So with that, I would support the motion as it's being put forward here, and I'm happy to have the input from this working group in terms of there's any suggestions of making it more. I will recognize, however, that we have legislative restrictions. We are a legislative body. We are a government. We have to, we speak. We have very differing opinions at this table. We can debate that in public and only in public, and we speak as one voice through the mayor. And so those restrictions just limit us in some ways to sort of a nice, warm and fuzzy back and forth discussion on these sorts of things. We are restricted in that. So I think that expectation has to be put out there that that's just the way it is. Because we can't start debating things as a body if we meet, even if it's an informal way. So, I'm okay with the wording as it is right now. I think it seems to be the necessity that we have one, and to do the best job that we can at it. I would, in the correspondence we had today, there was a suggestion, for example, of having some sort of public input piece around the budgeting process, and I think that sort of feedback, something targeted and focused, where we can tap into the expertise of the community on some of these things, makes more sense to me, frankly. We're going to have it with the Heritage Conservation Area, with the bike lanes, with all these aspects. That's a better use of public time and energy than the more general meetings. But that's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Okay. Now, is there any amendment? Because I know you'd mentioned before. Before we get to that. Before we get to an amending motion, if there is to be one, we'll hear from Councillor Croft, please.
Thank you, Mayor. And this is actually to staff and through you. Is it realistic to arrange a meeting in November to achieve some of the things that we're talking about, or is it too soon to be able to put something like that together?
If it's the desire of council to have some kind of a meeting in November, staff will work hard to get that done. I can tell you that probably the only restriction that we have is the location. We find it increasingly difficult to find a venue, so that's probably the biggest restriction.
Thank you.
Now, is there any motion to amend that you'd mentioned before?
It's a friendly amendment to Councillor Braithwaite to amend the first stanza and the phrase town hall to public forum meeting.
Thank you very much. Is there a
Second?
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Braithwaite, Councillor Murdoch opposed. Thank you very much. It passes. Thank you. Now, any further amendments? Was there any thought to leaving the date of November flexible in the event that we couldn't find a suitable venue, number one, or that we end up having to put in, and I saw today, I think we had some HCA proposed meetings, and we may have other proposed meetings in that time that we may have to coordinate some meetings with others. So one option would be the menu to arrange a date and a venue as soon as possible to hold a public forum meeting. It just creates a more flexibility in the event that there are no, number one, are no venues, and number two, that we don't want to create conflict with something that perhaps is more pressing. So for instance, if we have to choose between HCA public meeting and an open-ended public forum, which one of the two would we choose, okay? So, any thoughts on that, Councillor Braithwaite?
My assumption would be that if staff could not find a venue in November, that they would move to December or January. So that would be my assumption, and I think that staff would feel the same way about that. It just makes common sense to me that if they can't find something in November, they'll move it to another date.
I think they would need to come back to have a different motion. If you can't find something in November, you would report back, and then we would change the motion. We would change the direction, because right now the direction is to have it in November. Staff? You were reaching and then you're not reaching? Just procedurally, I'm wondering what's the simplest.
So if you keep it to saying to have a date and a venue in November, if that's what you're sticking to, we can't find anything, we'll report back that to council.
Okay.
If you want
Okay.
to have a little more flexibility, then you should probably change your motion.
Okay. The one way for flexibility would put in November or as soon as practical after that. But anyway, go ahead, Councillor Zelko.
Thank you, Chair. I certainly wouldn't want to micromanage staff. I think they're going to be doing their best with the dates that we give them. What I like with this target date of November is that it allows an opportunity to talk before we go into the craziness of priorities and budgets and that whole process that we have to go into shortly thereafter. And we have a chance to, in that slight calmness before Christmas start up as well. It just seemed like a very good opportunity to touch base. And so you just reminded me of one more thing. I apologize, I have it right here. And it gives me also an opportunity to, as I pull up this piece of paper I had right here, with respect to words that I believe came from you, Mayor Jensen, Chair, on December 6, 2014, as part of your election interview after you were elected. You were quoted as saying that public engagement has really come to the forefront, much of the work accomplished. The city is committed to hosting regular town hall meetings, continuing to update its website, and in the near future to phasing and webcasting of council meetings. I took hope in 2014 when you said those words about town hall meetings, and I really look forward to us actually doing that as a group. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we certainly had a lot of town hall meetings on the sewer separation and also the official community plan. So we certainly done a lot of public engagement, and it is still in the forefront. It continues to be. Now, is there any motion, any other amending motion in respect to the date or anything? Otherwise, I'm going to call the question.
I guess I'll just put in a friendly amendment then, in the venue in November or soonest possible date to hold a town hall meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Moved and seconded. Okay. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Zelko, Councillor Braithwaite opposed. It passes. Thank you very much. Now on the motion as amended, is there further discussion? Further discussion? Seeing none, call a question. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much. Thanks for bringing this forward, Councillor Braithwaite. I think the more conversations we have with the community, the better. So that's a great motion. Thank you. Now we're
Motion to.
going to have a motion to adjourn into in camera.
Motion to move in camera.
All-
Your Worship, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt. I apologize. I believe with our time constraints, we may want to consider deferring in camera to follow the committee of the whole.
Yes, I do notice it's 5 minutes too, which would give us only 3 minutes, 1 minute to walk out, 3 minutes for a meeting and 1 minute to walk back. So it is, so the motion is in order that it's a motion to move in camera following the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
Thank you very much. Moved
Your
and
Worship,
seconded.
perhaps I could provide a bit of clarification. We are reconvening as council immediately following the committee of the whole. So the council process, as usual, would follow. And then at the conclusion of council, we would go in committee of the whole.
Okay.
Or apologies, in
No
camera.
problem.
Move
I think that
adjournment.
makes sense. Right. Thank you. We all have that now. Thank you for clarifying that, Ms. Jones. Okay. Hey, we're all on the same page. Yes, 6 more meetings. And that's all before 7 o'clock. Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Not opposed. So we're going to take a little break here, about 5 minutes, while we freshen up and we go into a more relaxed format. And we'll start the committee of the whole at 7 o'clock, and that'll be chaired as is normally by the